Welcome to episode 35 of the We Are Auto Show. What's new, Derek?
Not too much is new with me, although I did win the family pumpkin carving contest, which was pretty hype. We actually
Ooh,
painted on the pumpkin. What's up? What's up with you? What's new with you?
just been working a lot, staying busy. Saw something kind of funny while I was out on the road. I think today, whatever. I don't even remember what day it was, but saw something kind of funny. Now, uh, I kind of scratched my head. My wife was in the car with me at the time, and we were stopped at a light. And I looked over to the car beside me,
Mm-hmm.
and some dude had like scribbled all over his rearview mirror.
What?
Yeah, like it looked like the word dependable, but like in graffiti, like all over his mirror. His rear view mirror.
Was it with
What's
like
the
paint? Was it with?
it looked like with like Sharpie.
Oh,
Like who does that? What?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was freaking weird, man. We both kind of looked at each other like, what why? What is the point of this?
Were his
Why would
side mirrors
you
good?
from what I could tell? I mean,
Hmm.
they weren't positioned properly at all, but that just the whole thing was just like, why would you do that there? That's just kind of weird.
That is very odd. Not positioned properly is totally normal. That's usual. But you would think that he just used like a sticky note or a note taking app on his phone if he wants to keep a note of something. Scribbling on your
That would,
mirror, unless it said, "Hey, check me every 10 seconds," seems very odd.
yeah, that you would think, but apparently the dude just had like words just scribbled all over his mirror, and we both just kind of were like, what? Why are we doing this? I'm confused.
Yeah, that's
But
that's odd.
yeah, yeah, I digress. So let's get into some news, shall we?
We have a lot of news to talk about today. This week has been a news-heavy week, so let's get into it. Did you hear the news that Tesla and Hertz are kind of getting together a little bit?
I did, as a matter of fact, I did, and hmm,
I know you're not a Tesla fanboy. That's fine.
correct.
But there are some interesting talking points to talk about here. So Hertz ordered 100,000 Tesla Model 3s.
That's a lot of Model 3s.
That is a lot of Model 3s. They say, from what I've seen, and this is like a recent article that came out today, Hertz is going to try to rent about half of those, so about 50,000 Teslas, to Uber drivers. Yeah,
What? Hold on. What? What?
I don't know.
I'm confused.
I think that Hertz is trying to be very edgy, and I like their forward-thinking look here. But they also say that drivers with a 4.7 star rating in Uber, like you've done well in Uber and you have over 150 trips in Uber, if your rating is above 4.7, you can rent a Tesla Model 3 from Hertz for $334 a week before taxes.
But do you think that you'll actually make more than that?
I don't know what the margins are on Uber drivers. I've never done it.
That just seems because was that a month? That's a $1,200 a month payment for the Model 3. You'd have to be making 5 grand a month driving just Uber for that to even make any sense at all.
I agree with you. That seems apparently there's a market, or else they wouldn't have bought 50,000 of them for this market.
Or
Um,
they think there's a market and they're going to find out real quick that there maybe not isn't a market anymore.
it could be that, but I really think that this is a long play for them. What I'm a little scared about is in the short term, that's a big upfront cost, right? Each one of these is like $40,000 a car. Like they're decently expensive cars, even with the big bulk buy like that. I bet you they spent a ton of money on this. Do they
Oh, I'm sure
have
they did.
the charging infrastructure at their Hertz facilities to even facilitate charging 100,000
No,
Teslas?
no, there's no way. Absolutely not.
I think you're right on that. And if they don't, I wonder where they're going to charge these or how they're going to charge these. Maybe they have something with the Tesla supercharger network that they get it charged for a lower cost or something like that. But I'm assuming they're going to have to put in a lot of charging stations at these Hertz dealerships or facilities or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah,
Now,
this just seems weird.
if we think about this, there's a couple other corners that this could take, a couple other turns here. So we know that they do like a Tesla driving score, right?
Yeah.
You could
Yep.
start to gather data on who are the best Uber drivers and who are not the best Uber drivers.
May I guess so? But what does that have? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what you would really do with it other than allocate the cars based on the better Uber drivers. But the long-term play here, and I think that this is what they're going for, and it's an okay plan as long as it pans out, is full self-driving.
what? But why would that be the long-term play for Hertz?
Her's business model right now doesn't make sense for it. I'll say that. But if they switched over to it's a transportation type thing, right? If I'm taking you from point A to point B, if they were the Uber, then it makes total sense.
Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. I.
This smells fishy. Like Hertz is going to not so much really worry about being a rent-a-car situation, but they're moving down the full self-driving path to just destination point A to point B people.
Yeah. You know what? That's probably good because the last time I used Hertz, it was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. So I'll give you a funny story. My wife and I rented a car through Hertz. It was a Ford Fiesta. We were just going on a little road trip. We were going up a couple of states up to Tennessee. And this may not be the fault of Hertz, but it should be the fault of someone at Hertz not inspecting their cars after each trip or doing proper maintenance. But we rented this little Ford Fiesta. As soon as we got into Georgia, just outside of Valdosta, there was we stopped for gas. Then we got back on the highway. And as I'm driving the highway, there was kind of a gauge that started to go screaming towards hot. Yeah, that temperature gauge was pinging right up to the very edge and then lost all power of the car. Yep, the whole thing was pretty much dead because the serpentine belt snapped while we were in the absolute middle of nowhere, Georgia. And Hertz tried to kind of dick us around and send us back 300 miles the wrong way. And we were in a tow truck with a tow truck driver that was the worst driver ever that I had to navigate him to Atlanta. It was bad experience. So maybe this is a good play for Hertz because maybe they're just not the best rental car company.
From that experience, yeah, a full self-driving Tesla sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what's what with this 100,000 Teslas.
It's a big buy from them, and it smells like there's more going on than just them buying these to rent them out to customers. Because I don't think that makes a ton of economical sense. When you could buy a ton of other cheaper normal cars like Toyotas and Hondas and stuff, that seems more their market. It smells like there's something more going on here.
Yeah, I agree. There's something sneaky. I got a sneaky suspicion about this. So
Yeah,
let's just keep our eyes peeled on what Hertz does in the next 5 to 10 years.
that's the plan. Do you got any other news that we should chat about?
I do. I have some German news coming from Germany.
Okay.
So the Mercedes-Benz, as we know, their 2022 Mercedes SL is switching things up a bit. So they just as of today, Thursday the 28th, they released all of their images and stuff for the new Mercedes-Benz AMG SL SL55 and the SL63. So for those of us that don't know or maybe not are not familiar with what the SL is, the SL is the big open top roadster, just big engine, comfortable cruising like fast, just all of the things, kind of the perfect car you could see just ripping up the Pacific Coast Highway.
Okay. And they released all of the specs on that?
Yeah, on the 2022. So they're offering the AMG SL in two models, the SL55 and the SL63. So here's the first thing that is being switched up. It is all-wheel drive only. So all-wheel drive is going to be standard, where all-wheel drive was kind of an up play in the SLs of past. So I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of wish this would be rear-wheel drive, but call me crazy. What are your thoughts on an all-wheel drive, open-top roadster, big, powerful thing? Do you think that should be all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive? What do you think?
No, I mean, looking at the pictures, this looks like you want it to be a comfortable sports car, like a very comfortable sports car, more sports car, or more comfortable than sports car.
A very comfortable, very powerful sports car that just can blast through everything.
Yes, now, but I don't know if that really screams all-wheel drive. I don't know.
And that's it. Is to me, this screams more like top-down muscle car.
Yeah.
Like this is like a German muscle car with a top down.
It's a really refined Mustang.
Camaro. Really refined
Camaro's
Camaro,
better.
In my opinion. Yeah, I think this is a really refined Camaro. I like that take. A refined muscle car. The next thing that is switching up a little bit is they're going for 2+2 seating, meaning 2 front, 2 rear. Let's go ahead and just clear the air right now. There ain't no goddamn way you're fitting 2 people in the back of this freaking thing. Are you kidding me? Like, when does anyone ever sit in the back seats of a convertible ever in the history of the world? Unless you are an infant.
Yeah, humans who don't have legs.
Or a dog.
Yeah, looking at the interior photos here, there's no room. There's no room for legs.
Like, I laugh at the car companies all the time. Yes, we have back seats. Of course we have back seats. Like your BRZ, Derek. You have back seats, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, you have back seats, quote unquote.
For insurance purposes, I have back seats. For fitting 4 rear tires across the width and height, I have back seats. For a human, I have absolutely no back seats.
There's no way a human is fitting there, which means there's no way a human is fitting in the backseat of this SL. No. I just laugh so hard when these car companies are like, yeah, it's got 2 seats. Of course. They market it as a 2+2. Oh my God, shut up. Just don't even market it like that. It's stupid.
They market it like that so that insurance will buy it and go with it. Whatever.
It's dumb. But now the next thing that is a little bit of a controversial play is they are actually going back to a soft top where all the current SLs have been hard top convertibles. What are your thoughts there?
Well, this car is just kind of all over the place. They want it to be a muscle car, but it's got 4 seats. They want it to be a sports car, but it's got a soft top, which generally means the frame's going to be a little flexy bendy. I don't like the idea.
Yeah, so I like that it's a soft top though, because if I'm gonna have this big, ultra powerful, ultra luxurious, sporty cruising open top thing, I prefer the soft top over the hard top. It just gives me a little bit more of that feel good feeling. The hard top is just too sterile and clinical.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from in that sense. But at the same time, like, what is this trying to be?
An SL, which is the same thing it's been for the last 1,000 years, is literally just massive power, very long hood or bonnet for our European listeners, 2 seats, open top, go cruise. I mean, the picture on the Car and Driver article that we're looking at is literally cruising down a coast road. That's the whole point of this car, is you're not going to set the fastest time on the Nürburgring. Nope, you don't expect to. You're not going to be the most comfortable, like in a Rolls-Royce Phantom or something like that. Nope, again, still not the point. It's supposed to enjoy the drive, making a lot of big V8 rumbling noises, open top, feel the cool breeze coming off the water, and just enjoy the day. That is, to me, the perfect SL experience. Um,
I have
yeah,
figured it out. The back seats are for pets. They're for dogs.
little dogs, because my dog ain't fitting in that.
Mm-hmm. Little dogs.
That would be, I would say, the typical Mercedes SL owner has a little yappy dog.
I think you're
That
right.
would be correct. Yeah, and it's a designer dog, I'm sure.
Yep. And they're gonna take it down the curvy road on the beach.
Yeah. So, talking about this soft top, which not a hard top, soft top, which is a big thing because the Mercedes SL initially was soft top, then they went hard top, and now they're back to a soft top. Now, I do have a quote from the Mercedes design chief. His name is Gordon Wagoneer. That doesn't sound very German, but it is what it is. Wagoner, something like that. But the quote is, if you start with a retractable hardtop again, you will get what you have right now, which is not appealing in my view.
That was his quote.
That is his quote, design chief, like the
Whoa.
Mercedes design chief. So he is even claiming that the current Mercedes SL is not very appealing.
Whoa. That's a bold move.
And I'll be honest, I agree with him.
Yeah, the current SL is not what I would call a luxury sports car. It's more, I guess, with the hard top, it doesn't really have the luxury that you would expect.
To me, it would be competing with the Bentley Continental. That's
Yes.
kind of its competition. Right? It's more of a grand touring luxury cruiser that's powerful and can power a moon, right? So I kind of agree with him that I think the current SL is a little bit kind of blah.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from.
Now, about this canvas roof, this soft top, the soft top is actually saving 46 pounds over the current hard top.
Okay, that's decent weight.
So yeah, you lose a couple of pounds. That's good stuff in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good with that. And it is actually either raised or lowered in 15 seconds at up to, here's the cool figure, up to 37 miles an hour.
Oh, you can change it up and down. Oh, at 37 miles an hour.
15 seconds, 37 miles an hour.
That's not bad.
That's almost 40 miles an hour, which for most city roads is perfect.
Yeah,
So
that's not bad.
like if you're going down the road, you've got your top down, and then all of a sudden you go, oh crap, there's a gray cloud up ahead. Oh no. You don't have to like stop on the side of the road, let it do its, like folding metal roof origami thing that it does. I think that's good figure for the roof folding action, in my opinion.
Yeah, do you happen to know what the speed is for the Porsches? Because I don't off the top of my head.
I don't off the top of my head, but I know it's probably somewhat similar to that. They're
Okay.
all probably within that 15 to 25 second. Like, it's not going to take a minute, but it's also not going to be 1 second. I'm sure it's similar.
Yeah, do you know the speed? Because I know that the speed of some cars is extremely low. Like I've seen, I don't remember what it was, but I think there was a car that I was looking at that it was like 15 miles an hour was like the limit. And I was like, I could
that's
ride my
not a
bike
lot.
faster than that.
Yeah, that's not a lot. I don't know what the speed caps. I'm sure most of them are probably 20, 25, maybe 30. So 37 is a pretty big deal in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
I
up
think
there.
37 is pretty quick. So both the SL55 and the SL63 are getting a twin turbo 4-liter V8. Yeah, baby. Woo!
Okay. All right.
I believe the next gen of this SL is going to be part of the hybridization of Mercedes. Now, that same twin turbo 4-liter V8 and the SL55, which is this lower trim, is making 469 horsepower with 516 pound-feet of torques. Now, the higher trim, the SL63, that is making 577 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. That's a big jump.
Yeah, that's over 100 horsepower more. And
Yeah, it's a big jump.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you'll feel that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big jump. Now, I do want your opinion on the look here because I tend to think that this looks very similar to the current Mercedes-AMG GT.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It looks eerily similar to that car.
It's pretty much the same car, just AMG GT or SL63.
Are they going to make a soft top version of the AMG GT? I imagine not.
They already do.
Oh, well, that's awkward.
They already make a soft top AMG GT, AMG GTS, and AMG GTR. They make a soft top of all of them. They just look like the same car.
Okay.
Now, I have heard that the next AMG GT is going to look pretty drastically different, but to me, you're pretty much an AMG GT soft top with the SL63, I guess, the higher trim.
Is there a big price gap between those two?
I don't think there's a massive one for a used AMG GT or a new SL63. So in terms of price, the base price for the SL55, the lower trim, that's going to be 100K plus, and you can expect the SL63, the higher trim, to be probably a solid 20% more or so, I'd guess.
Okay.
So you're probably 120 grand, 150 grand, depending on how you spec it. I think you can probably get a convertible Roadster AMG GT for 150, 160 grand, and then you get the actual proper higher performance muscle car. I don't know. It just seems a little silly.
Seems a bit too close to the look and price, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just seems interesting. Too
Mind
close
you, I am
to
sure there are a
something.
lot of people that are going to buy this car.
Oh, yeah, and they'll all be the mean average age will be probably 71, I think.
Yeah.
The real test will be, can you fit a set of golf clubs in the trunk?
Uh-huh.
That is the real test.
That's what it will be used for. And then it will be used for taking the puppy down the street to the park.
Yep.
And the beach.
Yeah, to the groomers. So it'll be the battle of Bentley Continental or SL63 if you're on a budget.
Mm-hmm.
That's my call. That's my take. So with the amount of old people that live near us, we're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, we will see a lot of them.
Yeah. So let's move away from the Mercedes-AMG SLs. Do you have anything else, Derek?
I do. Did you see? We had talked about this, I think, 2 shows ago, but we finally got the specs for the Z06 Corvette.
Yahoo! Here we go.
So we did rag on the Z06 Corvette when it initially got. I think it was like one picture was released by Chevrolet, and it was one of the more base model-y looking Z06s that they have. Yeah. So they finally brought out all the specs and all the pictures, and I actually kind of like it a lot.
Yeah, this looks a hell of a lot better now than it did with that other picture. Mm-hmm. What was the one thing we said that the rear needed, like, immediately with the other picture?
Yeah, it needed an update, and it also needed a wing.
And
guess what?
And
it got both
got
of
a
those.
wing.
Yes.
Yep.
So let's talk about the numbers, though.
Okay.
This car is, from what Chevrolet states, a naturally aspirated. It is a 5.5 liter V8 making 670 horsepower, which is, I think, the highest naturally aspirated horsepower production engine.
It's up there. I think you're probably right. Yeah, I think
that's what Chevrolet is throwing in all their press credentials. They're saying, we've made the most powerful naturally aspirated production engine.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Big fan of that.
So it'll go up to 8,600 RPM, which I believe is like 2,000 RPM higher than the current C8 Corvette.
Yeah, because I believe this is what's a flat plane crank V8, so I believe it revs higher. Yeah.
It does rev higher. There's a whole bunch of engineering shenanigans that they did. In the intake specifically, they actually have 3 butterfly valves to take in the air. And apparently they are at certain RPMs opening certain ones and closing others to remove the harmonic problems. You know when you're going down the interstate and you open up the window, just one window, and you get that
Yeah.
reverberation going on in your car?
That.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that. They're apparently opening and closing these valves to prevent that from happening at certain torques or certain RPMs across their gear ranges, which is kind of cool.
That's interesting. That's some engineering trickery.
That is some engineering trickery. They also have on the valve springs, they have 2 valve springs for each of them, and I think they're made out of 2 different materials, and that makes it so when they're going through thermal loading, that they can keep their spring tension the same, which is pretty cool.
That is actually kind of cool. Now, my question is, does that mean that they're more likely to break quicker?
That is what everyone asked in the press, and they said they have run these things until they don't run anymore, and apparently they just keep running. So they've said they've sorted
Good.
out all of that.
Good.
We'll see what happens when people actually get a hold of these. It seems like this car is very, very good. I haven't seen too many bad things. It looks very aggressive. The numbers, 670 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. It's got an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic. I don't think you can get it in a manual, which I was a little sad about.
You can't. You can't get the current C8 in a manual, though.
I think you're
We
right.
knew they were going to do that. Yeah, no, they're not going to do manual. It would be cool, but that ain't going to happen.
I do like the carbon rims that you can get as an option on it. Looks really aggressive.
Yeah, those are something, that's for sure.
Now, I have heard through the grapevine that it is very difficult to get this car on pre-order.
Oh, I'm sure. Do you remember when the C8 first came out and like people would like sell their allocations for like $100,000 or some stupid crap like that?
Mm-hmm. I've heard that this car is on a 5-year back order. That seems like a lot.
5 years. They're pretty much going to be on to the next generation by the time
It's kind of what I'm
they're
thinking.
through that. Like you're going to go to the C9 Corvette by the time you get your C8 Z06.
I'm sure that 5 years is their projected with the chip shortage and COVID and yada yada yada. So maybe it'll sort itself out in like 2 years, but we'll see. Do you want to talk about the price of this car though? How much do you think that this costs?
It looks about 100,000 plus. So what, 110?
Base of 90.
Oh damn, that's cheap for what that is.
That
That's
is
really
cheap for what that is.
But hold on. Are you actually going to be able to buy one at 90 though? That's the question.
I don't think so, and I don't think you would want to buy it at 90. I think you would spec it up.
Well, yeah, but even after you spec it up, do you think a dealer is not going to put an astronomical markup on it?
Yeah, probably.
Especially with the way car dealers are right now with supply and demand and all the shortages.
Right.
People are putting markups on freaking Toyota Tacomas, let alone a Z06.
Mm-hmm. I am still a huge fan of this car. I would love to see one in person. Apparently, they sound different than the current one because of that flat plane crank V8. The combustion cylinders oscillate between the 2 different sides, the banks of the engine, so it sounds more like a Ferrari than it does like a Corvette, which is kind of odd.
That higher pitch.
Yeah, more of like the smooth of the Ferrari hum, as opposed to the old Corvettes were just like pounding the ground, a rumble.
Yeah, that thunderous. Yeah.
This feels refined. It's the mid-engine. It's, they're like inching closer to a Ferrari, but trying to keep it American. It's kind of interesting.
It's interesting, but I wish it wouldn't have a more smooth soundtrack.
Yeah. But if that's the only thing that we can really hate on, then like, good on you, Chevrolet. You did well.
I mean, I still don't like the look of it, but I like it better than the current C8.
I like it better than the base as well. And the rear end has been adjusted as well, and it looks better. And that was kind of my big gripe, was the rear end of the current one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan.
All right. You're a fan. I hope that we can see them soon. And I'd love to drive one just to see how it feels.
I would love to drive one as well, and I believe that we're going to get to drive at least the base model of the current C8 very soon.
I look forward to that for sure.
That should be fun.
For sure. Yeah.
So, do you have anything else that we should chat about?
I do. I have some somewhat business news. Let's get down to business, shall we? So, McLaren's CEO, his name is Mike Flewitt. He's moving on. He is gone. Mike Flewitt, after 8 years, is now leaving McLaren. So the CEO has stepped away from McLaren.
Where do you go from McLaren?
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't simply know. He's been with McLaren for 8 years. Now I'm guessing this is all coming from the fact that the McLaren GT and the McLaren Elva have had more kind of disappointing results than what they were hoping for. Yeah, I don't like the McLaren GT, which we've talked about. Just kind of looks like a great value brand version of a McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
The Elva is cool, but not so sure. We actually talked about an Elva that had a stupid license plate that said "Get 458" about almost urging people to buy a Ferrari. Like,
Yep.
I know they were trying to get the McLaren Artura out for 2020. And we are now ending 2020, going to the end of 2021, and they are pushing it back to 2022. We talked about the Artura on like the first episode, I think, that hybrid V6 McLaren supercar. So, yeah.
Do we know who's coming in?
We don't have an official. They're still looking for a permanent person. I know they have one of the ex-Porsche execs stepping in as interim. Now, a little bit more about Flewitt. He was originally a native of Liverpool. He came from Ford to McLaren.
Oh, wow.
So 8 years ago, he was some top brass at Ford, and he went from Ford to McLaren, which kind of cool.
That's cool.
But I am not happy that he's leaving.
Why is that?
I'm not stoked about that, because as a bit of a purist, Flewitt kind of spoke to my soul a bit, because Flewitt was the CEO that claimed that McLaren will never build any SUV or anything like an SUV.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. You know how Aston built the DBX, and then even the Lamborghini Urus, the Porsche Cayenne back in the day, the Ferrari, whatever the hell the Ferrari's SUV is going to be called, all of the supercar companies that are building SUVs, Mike Flewitt, McLaren's old CEO, is like, hell no, we're not doing that. We build supercars, and that's just what we do. So I'm not happy he's leaving, because that makes me feel like McLaren is just going to build soccer mom style SUVs again. Well, not again, but
might
now.
Go down that path. I guess it'll depend on who comes in and what the board decides, but there's an untapped market there. I shouldn't say untapped. It's very tapped, but there's a big market there. And I can see people who have their Lamborghini, sports car, and then they go buy the Urus, and there's appeal there if you're a manufacturer.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you a quote from the Car and Driver article we're looking at. He spoke his mind and was happy to venture further into interviews than his PR managers wanted him to. His confirmation to Car and Driver that there would be an LT version of the 720S on the same day that the basic car made its debut was a fine example of this engaging enthusiasm. So he was enthusiastic about performance, about sports cars, about supercars. He doesn't give a rat's ass about SUVs. That's not what McLaren does. So he was very vocal about the fact that, like, hey, we're making supercars. This is what we do here. We don't. And I'm going to miss that.
I can see why you're going to miss it. I get it.
Yeah.
But we'll see who comes in. Maybe Mr. Porsche will solve your problems and keep it purist, but He might also say that here's a Macan, and you make a lot of money off those, so make it.
And that's exactly what's going to happen. I guarantee it. That's what's going to happen.
Probably.
The McLaren SUV, McLaren mom van thing. That's what I'm going to call it. The McLaren mom van thing. Yeah.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
Yeah. McLaren, you can borrow my idea for the name of your new SUV when you're ready. The MUV, the mom utility vehicle, the McLaren mom utility vehicle. All right, I got to move on from it. What else you got?
So there was, I don't know if you had a chance to watch, but there was an F1 race in America this past weekend. Did you happen to see that?
U.S. Grand Prix. I did not see it.
U.S. Grand Prix at COTA. COTA stands for the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And it was a banger. It was a banger.
I missed it.
I'll give you the quick rundown. Verstappen took pole in a decently contested qualifying. He only took it by like a couple hundredths or something like that. He ended up driving into turn 1 on the first lap and losing the race lead. Not ideal.
Oh.
Hamilton had the lead until Verstappen undercut him by like 3 or 4 laps. I think he undercut him by, and that got him the lead back in a couple seconds of lead. And then the race played out for a decent time. They kind of just pit stopped with each other. Hamilton went on a long run in his middle stint. So he had the fresher tires going into the end of the race, whereas Verstappen pitted early and had to run a long stint to the end. The idea from Mercedes was that if we pit Hamilton with, 10 laps less to go than Verstappen, that we'd be able to overtake him with fresher tires. Hamilton did run up to Max within the last 5 laps of the race, but then he got into the aero wash and couldn't do a damn thing and just had to sit there for 5 laps and watch Max Verstappen win the race with like a 2-second gap. So this means that Max Verstappen does win the race and he does keep the championship points lead, which in my opinion is great.
Ooh, here we go. Here we go.
That means that Max is ahead by I think it was 13 points or something like that. And I am stoked to see this go into the last couple races where we have a very tight championship.
Who do you think is going to win the championship? Hamilton or Verstappen? It's
a flip a coin. They're both very good. It's going to come down to not necessarily driver skill, but team strategy, I think. I think it's going to be... Right. If you out-qualify, where can you place your teammates between the 2 cars? Can you ruin them on a pit stop type of situation? It's going to come down to the team play, the pit stops, and tire management. I hope it comes down to a last-second lunge and just pure driver skill. But I have a feeling that's not going to happen in F1 right now.
It ain't. Next year, maybe.
Maybe. And the cars being very aero-washy, where you can't stay behind someone within 2 seconds, is not making for great racing. Sky Sports was pumped when F1 or when Hamilton was running up to Verstappen, and they were saying he'll be past him in 2 laps and 3 laps. This is the easiest overtake ever. Turns out he got into his aero wash and he couldn't do anything.
Yikes! Turns out
they were not stoked. Understandably so. They have a bias. We all know they have a bias, but
well, of course they do. Of course
they're British. That's fine.
Yeah.
So it was a good race. It was a good strategy race. The F1 scene in Austin, Texas was pretty hype. They had everybody was there. The fans were all there. The grandstands were packed. It looked like a lot of fun.
Did you see Shaquille O'Neal come out for the podium ceremonies? Did you see how tall he was and compared to everyone else? While everyone else was standing on their podiums, he is eye level, if not taller than everyone, and he's on flat ground.
He was walking down the pit road as Martin Brundle was doing the pre-race ceremonies in his grid walk, and Martin is just staring up to the sky to look at Shaquille.
Yeah, I saw all the memes come out. I was like, oh, man, that would have been absolutely hilarious to watch that live.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a bummer to see that passing and overtaking still can't happen because of this stupid aero wash with current F1, but that makes me ever more excited for next season's F1.
Mm-hmm. Because they've drastically improved that from what we can tell in the next season.
Yeah, they've made it so hopefully with the new arrow, you're not getting that wash and you're able to actually overtake.
Right.
Actually, real quick, a kind of side note about next year F1. You know how we talked about the Miami Grand Prix?
We did. We did.
Okay. I do briefly want to talk about the tickets for Miami Grand Prix. I was looking at potentially getting tickets, trying to get tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take a look at all, Derek?
I saw an article and I wasn't stoked.
Yeah, big not stoked. Big yikes. So I saw like the base price for a ticket was like, I don't know, $690 each. Base price.
Yeah, it's kinda dumb.
Base. And then to go even further, the thing that I really did not like was the fact that I didn't see any general admission. Meaning, you know how IMSA, Indy, everyone else, you can kind of walk the track and like
Mm-hmm.
just wander. You could catch a different viewpoint from one corner to a different viewpoint from another corner to a different viewpoint from. Yeah, apparently, from what I can tell, that's not really a thing at the Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think that's just a symptom of F1. I think at F1, it's kind of similar to NASCAR. If you're there on race day, your job is to go to your seat and watch the race where you're at. And that's not really what we're used to. Like when we went to Sebring, it's a 12-hour race, mind you. So you're not going to sit in a seat for 12 hours or 24 hours. But you can at least go wander around and like you're free to go to every single corner you want to go watch. In an F1, you don't do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Indy, you do.
In the practice days of Indy, you do, yes. I guess it's more open in Indy, yeah.
Yeah, that's just my beef is like tickets were 690 plus, and they don't give you the opportunity to just kind of wander around, which is really the whole point
Right.
of going to a race.
Did you
right?
see if there were practice days available? Because that's kind of what I'd be curious.
I did not see. No, unfortunately.
There might be decent ticket prices for like the Friday practice where there's not even qualifying going on. But you're going to see like an F2 qualifying and an F3 qualifying and a bunch of those practices as well.
Yeah, that may be a better option. Is go to like the free practice 2 or whatever they call them and go out there and
race days at
around
those big events like that is usually chaos for parking and everything. And you're better off to go to the practices to actually watch the cars if you want to watch them.
Yeah. Fair. So, should we get into some car spots of the week?
We should. Do you have any car spots of the week, my friend?
I do. It was a very jag-heavy car spotting week.
A jag-heavy? Okay.
Saw some pretty cool stuff. Saw just your standard F types. I think the F Type R, I think, is the one I'm thinking of, which was a cool car, but that doesn't make my spot list. A couple other things I saw, just saw standard, like, I don't know, a Ferrari California. I saw a Ferrari 812 once, just briefly, all sorts of random stuff. But my car spots of the week list, it's going to be relegated to some vintage Jags.
Some British Jag. All right, let's hear it.
Yes. So the first one was I saw a Series 2 Jaguar XKE, so an E-Type coupe.
Isn't the E-Type the one that they all drool about over in the UK?
And me too, because god damn is it pretty. Oh, good Lord, that is pretty.
Yeah, that's a cool looking car.
It is just so beautiful. Oh, you can't dispute the beauty of the E-Type Jag. I mean, it's just so pretty. And I saw it in the coupe, so hard top versus the open top.
Okay.
I personally like the open top better.
I think I do too.
But the hard top, the coupe, it's still a very pretty car. It's a very, 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 very pretty car.
Are these going for dumb money these days?
I think they are. I think these are like 200 to 300 grand. I think.
Ooh.
I don't quote me on that, but I think they're 200 to 300 grand ish, maybe 100. I don't know, but
I think you're right on that.
Yeah, they're not like let's just go get a Corolla or something.
No.
So that's one of my spots is a Jaguar XKE Coupe, Series 2, more specifically.
Okay.
Now, my next spot, I actually had to do some real digging and research to figure out what the hell I saw because I briefly saw it on the highway and I was like, I have zero clue what that actually even is. Because it kind of went whizzing past me and I had to like honestly scratch my head and think, I've never seen one of those. What? And I'm not very well versed on vintage cars. Like we're talking 50s and 60s cars. I'm not super well versed on my 50s and 60s cars.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. Usually I'll see one of those. I can give you the manufacturer. If it's
Yeah.
very well known, I can give you the car. But other than that, it is a question mark. But those question marks can be fun rabbit holes to go down sometimes.
And that was my dilemma because initially I was like, oh wow, that's what the hell is that? Like the E-Type, I could pick that out immediately. Right
Mm-hmm.
away, I picked out, oh, E-Type Jag. Got it. But the next thing I saw was a Jag XK120. Now, yeah,
What?
exactly. That was my initial thought. I was like, it looks kind of jaggish, but I don't really know a damn thing about it. And I still really don't know a lot about it. But it is a really very pretty looking Jag. It's from the 50s, I believe, 54 ish. And I saw it in a Roadster.
So it had the top down. It is, for those listening in audio format, one of those very swoopy Jags.
Mm-hmm.
The front wheels have giant fenders. The bonnet is like 10 feet long. It's got
Easy.
yeah, it's got the
Easy.
window that comes up very sharply and
Mm-hmm.
abruptly. And
Yep.
the seat looks like it's, what are those called? Those seats that go across a bench seat.
Just a straight up bench seat. Yeah.
Bench seat with a
It
big old wheel that you'd have to turn like with three
miles.
hands.
Yeah. Like just making a simple turn is I can't hold it, Captain. I
Right.
can't hold it.
You're driving a ship.
Exactly. And I'm sure it would smell exactly like what you're thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
That smell of like leather and oil and like gasoline and rubber. Yes. Just a vintage car smell. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I do. It's a
Y-
cool
na-
looking car too.
Yeah. It looks like a villainous car, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does give you that villain vibe.
Like if I was a villain in a superhero movie, I would definitely go for an XK120. It looks very villainous.
Mm-hmm. I'm with
I
you,
like
bud.
it. I like it. So now I've got a question for you.
Okay.
What do you prefer? The XKE or the E-Type Coupe or the XK120? Of the two Jag spots I had, what would be yours?
I'm pretty sure I would get absolutely slaughtered in any comment section if I didn't say the E-Type. But I'm not saying the E-Type because I don't care. I think I would take
Okay.
the villain car.
The XK120?
Yeah. I know it's not going to be worth as much, but it's way more unique in my opinion.
I see where you're coming from for sure. I definitely see where you're coming from. Um, I I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I'd prefer. I see. Everyone knows what an E-Type Jag is,
They do.
but no one knows what an XK120 is unless you know what an XK120 is. Like
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm normally pretty damn good at picking out any kind of car on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Almost anything. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Morgan. Oh, that's an Ariel Atom. Oh, that's a whatever. I saw the XK120 and I had to do some deep Googling. And I was like, just Googling and DuckDuckGoing and like every search engine you can imagine. What the hell British sports cars were made in 1950 and 1960? Like every Google search you could think of for like British sports cars, 1950, 1960. And finally, I stumbled through. I was like, oh my God, that's it. That is freaking it. It's an XK120. So I kind of like the XK120 just because it's different and unique. I think we're actually agreeing here.
We agree to not take the E-Type Jag. Not what I would have expected.
I love the E-Type because it's beautiful, but I really, really love the rarity of the XK120.
Yeah, I I think I agree with you. I would more like the rarity.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're on the same page there. So those are my spots. Do you have any spots of the week, Derek?
Oh, do I ever? Um,
Ooh,
I spotted. There were some cars out there that I would call more likely car spots. Like I saw an R8, I saw a 458, but
okay.
those kind of don't really do it for me anymore. I've become
Oh, stop
accustomed to
it.
seeing those.
Oh,
Now, what I did see is something real interesting.
what's that? An XK120?
No, a Nissan
Okay.
Altima Midnight Edition SR.
Oh my God, Derek. What? You really are putting that in a car spot,
I
like
am.
as a thing? Why? What?
Because these are
No.
much more attainable cars to the average person. I
It's an
didn't
Altima, dude.
I
No one
didn't
wants an
know
Altima.
that they made a Midnight SR edition Nissan Altima. Did you?
Yeah, I knew it was a thing because I've seen it on a badge a few times, and why
Because I didn't
is
know
my
it was a
question.
thing. Honestly, I don't think it had any performance upgrades. I think it just had a badge with like some rims, and that was about it.
I'm
But I'm
pretty
going to
sure
use it
that's
for
all
my.
in midnight packages.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, like let me give you like a black badge and like some dark window tint and dark colored wheels, and bada bing, bada boom. There's your midnight package, baby.
But you know
Pow.
what? I've seen as many Midnight packages as I have seen XKRs, which is one.
Derek, Derek, I can't believe you're putting this in a spot. You've seen as many XKEs as you've seen midnight package ultimate. Oh, what am I gonna do with you? What am I gonna do with you? For the love of God, Derek.
Let's move on to my next car spot. It's
All
another
right, what's
banger
your
of a
next one?
trim. Okay. But you'll
Okay.
at least like the car a little bit better. It was a
Okay.
yellow C8 Corvette, and it was their C8R edition.
Okay.
This is a little more up your alley.
This is a little more performance oriented, so I am a little bit more in tune to agree that this is spot worthy. But why did they call it the C8R edition? Because it's got the same livery as the actual C8R.
That's what I was about to ask you. I was looking at this car and going, certainly not the race car. I've seen the IMSA race car, right? It has a rear wing, which the base model does not have a rear wing. So, okay.
But you can option it with that wing. You
Can
can
you?
buy that wing as an option on the standard C8. Yep, you can.
So, what else does this do other than paint?
Nothing. You get a little sticker on the side that says C8.R edition, and the very similar two little gray stripes that go over the top of the car all the way down to the front, just like you do on the actual C8R race car.
You know, it looked a little more aggressive. But I think the Z06 is kind of the package you want to go with if you actually want this to be a sports car. Like
Oh, 100%. See, I don't understand why they did a C8R of the base, a C8R edition of the base model, and they didn't do a C8R edition of the Z06.
yeah,
Because the Z06 is really kind of the more performance-oriented car, where that would actually make a closer comparison to the actual C8R race car, whereas this just kind of doesn't.
I agree. I saw it and I was like, well, that's interesting. It looks better, but what is it actually doing? And why is this not the C06 or a ZR1 even? ZR1's probably a little too out there for the racing package, but it would more fit to have the C8R logo on a ZR1 or a Z06.
It absolutely would. And here's my beef. They didn't match the same yellow to the yellow that they put on the actual C8R race car. If they did like an actual paint match color yellow, that I could see a little bit more, I guess, correctly. But it's like two different yellows. One's more of like, I don't know, a mustard, and one's more of a sunbeam, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But like, when you look at a picture of them, you can tell it's like, it's just not quite the same yellow.
Yeah, I agree. And I also don't really know if the grays are the same either. They look similar, but I can't tell in the photo if they're the same. I do wish that they had kept the colors like you're talking about, and I wish that they had the inverted versions of these, like the gray with the yellow stripe, like the race car
That's
has,
cool.
or the yellow
Yep.
with the gray stripe, like the race car has, but matching the colors.
Yeah, and these colors they're just different enough to know that they're different,
Mm-hmm.
and just different enough to know that they're not the same. Like it's just they're close, but they're not close enough to be the same, and they're too different to. Yeah, it just
Yeah, the
I don't know
Corvette
about
yellow,
this.
the Corvette yellow race car would have been great. Like the yellow that we're looking at in the photo of the two comparing here is just too bright for that traditional yellow Corvette race car.
Exactly. The traditional Corvette yellow is a very rich yellow,
Right.
and the yellow on the C8 R edition is very bright and almost pale highlighter color.
Yeah.
Like it's just a little bit like they were messing with the color settings on like paint, and they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of had just
Oversaturated.
oversaturated. Like when you look at the filters on Instagram, you just crank all the dials all the way over to make it as like vibrant as you can. I don't know about this whole C8R edition thing.
It was my car spot of the week. It's going to trump the Ultima, so that's good.
It better damn well trump the Ultima, Derek.
So we're running on time here. Do you have an I
Okay.
wish they would have?
I do, as a matter of fact. I do.
Okay.
So I, with the help of my good friend Chris, did a thing recently.
Was it a mechanical thing?
It is, and I am the least mechanical and practical
Ooh.
human that has ever existed in the history of the world, maybe second to Jeremy Clarkson.
Yeah, you and Jeremy Clarkson
I-
don't do well with wrenches or screwdrivers or hammers or
No.
computers either.
Not at all. I suck doing anything with my hands other than driving. I like Well, I can't do a damn thing, and I did a thing. I did a thing.
All right, what'd you do?
I changed my oil.
Let me give you a golf
Yes,
clap.
I did a thing. Yes, I would like a golf clap. Thank you very much. So, with the help of my friend Chris, we changed the oil in my Volkswagen, and so Chris brought up a good point. And the Volkswagen engine is very, very cleverly designed to be easy to do oil changes on.
Nice.
So he has an oil kind of extractor, so it just sucks the oil out versus having to let it drip drain.
Oh.
So that makes it easy, just sucking it out of the dipstick.
Mhm.
But on the Volkswagen, the oil filter is on the top, so you just simply unscrew it right from where you're at, so you don't have to get underneath and twist around. So I wish they would have I wish they would design more cars with the oil filter on the top, so that you could actually do this much easier.
I think that it depends on what the car is going to be used for. If it's going to be daily driven as like a mommy missile and just taking a soccer practice and back, it's probably oil filter on the bottom because they're not going to be the ones changing it. But for example, our cars, where enthusiasts are probably going to be working on them, the oil filters generally nowadays are coming to the top, which is cool. I know on your car it's like that, on the BRZ it's like that, and I'm a huge fan of that. The ease of use of that being on the top is amazing.
Yeah, like it. I was just like aghast at how easy the whole thing was. I mean, with the oil extractor thing, it just sucked all the oil out, and then unscrew the oil filter, screw a new one in, pour a bunch of oil in the damn thing, call it a day.
That's
Boom.
it. Yep.
And it was way easier knowing that you didn't have to go crawling under things just to get to the oil filter.
Yep. I think the only thing you would have missed was checking the magnetic screw that's on the bottom or the bolt that's on the bottom when you drain the oil. You can check that to see if there's any metal shavings in there. And if there are,
Yeah.
well, you got a problem.
Correct. But yeah, so that's my wish would have is I just wish that all cars, well, most cars, oil filters was on the top, not the bottom.
Yeah, I think
To
all
make it easier.
enthusiast cars, oil filters should be on the top.
Yeah, for sure. So that's my I wish they would have. Do you have any I wish they would have's, Derek?
I do. I don't understand why cars don't come with like smart window tint. Window tint that could determine the angle of the sun and then tint less or more dependent on which direction the car is going.
That's good for people with logic that actually just want window tint to not get the sun in their eyes, but bad for gangsters that want window tint so they can hide from their enemies.
Well, I think that you should be able to make tint in a way that you can use the polarizing filters to. You did sunglasses back in the day, so I'm sure you know what polarization is. It's like not allowing certain wavelengths at a certain ratio to come through. If you take two polarizing filters and you put them horizontally to each other, then you will get no light to come through. So you could smartly use magnets or something to twist essentially polarizing filters in a way that would make it so you could block more light or less light depending on what angle the sun is coming at. And I think that this exists, but I don't know that why cars don't come stock with it, especially in a situation like Florida where the sun just blinds you. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. But what would that do if you're driving, like either sunrise or sunset and you're driving just dead into the sun? Would that just make it so that you're blind? It would just make no light pass through, and then all of a sudden you drive into the back of a semi?
No, you obviously couldn't make it pitch black. That would be bad. You would have to make it down to like half the light that you would normally get through, where you'd be able to see through it, but it would also block out a lot of the light that's coming directly into your eyes. I get that you could just use the little flappy bit on top, the sun visor, right? But the situation that I was in where this annoyed me was it was coming through the side window and I didn't have my visor there in a good spot to be able to stop the light. So
I got a beef with those visors though.
Oh boy.
I'm a whopping 5'6" on a good day. And I'm just short enough to where that visor, if the sun is just a little bit too much, then it comes right underneath the visor. And then I'm just like, I'm trying to like hunch myself up, or I'm trying to like hunker down to make it. Yeah. It's my
Sounds like a personal problem to me.
It is a personal problem. They can't fix this, but god damn it, it sucks to be 5'6".
Do you need a booster seat?
Sometimes I feel like I do.
All right, it's time to wrap up.
All right, I guess it is. So let's wrap up episode, 35? Man, holy cow, 35 episodes. So thank you all so much for listening to episode 35. Please do leave us a 5-star rating and drop a comment or review on our Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. Make sure you subscribe to our new YouTube and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. YouTube is We Are Auto, Instagram We Are Auto _, Facebook is We Are Auto, TikTok is We Are Auto. Also, please make sure you send us your I Wish They Would'ves and any auto-related news articles if you do come across some that you want us to chat about. And without further ado, that's going to wrap us up for episode 35. Thank you all so much again for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.